Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the Penon Fan 2, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank subscriber and friend of the channel, Michael, for providing the Penon Fan 2 for review. Do greatly appreciate it. Michael, you rock. Alright, so the Penon Fan 2. This will set you back $280 from your bank account. It is a quad driver hybrid. It has two 6mm dynamic drivers for the bass, one Sonian balanced armature for the mids, and one Knowles balanced armature for the highs. It also includes a crystal plated biological diaphragm, 13 ohms of impedance, 112 decibels of sensitivity, and a frequency response range of 20 Hz to 20 kHz. The Penon Fan 2 comes in this bright yellow box that says Penon on it. And then you get a carrying case that says Penon. Hard shell, a little bit big for the pocket, but just right for a bag. Area for your IEMs to sit, and a pocket for your accessories. And it'll protect your IEMs really well since it is hard shell. Then you get a couple other accessories. You get a metal cable clip, a little cleaning tool, a nice leather buckled snap wire management, and then you get 3 different types of silicone tips. You get these green narrow bore tips that are your typical grape olive shape, and you get small, medium, and large in those. And then you get these shallow wide bore tips. You get small, medium, and large of those. And then you also get a set of medium dual flange wide bore tip. Let's talk about these tips for a moment. None of them fit my ears. The wide bore tip dual flange was extremely uncomfortable. It extended too far into my ear hole, and it was too wide, and the angle of the Fan 2 just didn't fit, and it was not very comfortable at all. The shallow wide bore tip also was too wide for my ear hole, and also it fit too shallow, and it wobbled around in my ears and just didn't feel very good. And then the green grape olive shape, those held the Fan 2 nicely in my ears, but they were too thick and hurt my ear hole. So I went searching for some alternate tips, and the tip that I settled on were the E-Pro horn tip. And as you can see, they are a lot thinner than the other tips are, and they just fit my ears perfectly and gave me a nice seal and were more comfortable. So the Penon Fan 2, it's very nicely built. You got a cool faceplate, a little bit of branding on the faceplates, and they are rather thick. They are somewhat heavy. You have a long nozzle and then a winged design. So you have this wing on the back side here that is rather tall, and then you have a step wing going into the nozzle, and you have an aggressive angle. This may or may not fit a lot of ears. It is going to be a hit or miss when it comes to comfort and fit for most people. For me, it's leaning towards a miss. Definitely with stock tips, it's a miss. So the Fan 2, I have to really wiggle to get into my ears. And once they're in, they're still not very comfortable. That wing is very aggressive and really does push down in my ear, and it just doesn't fit the inside of my ears very well. And then the angle of the nozzle and the length of the nozzle forces into my ear hole and canal, and it's just not very comfortable. I get a decent seal, and probably about 60% of outside noises being blocked. Anything from coffee grinders, vacuum cleaners, TVs, that sort of stuff is blocked out fairly nicely, muffled very well. Carrying on conversation with people tends to be hard. You do have to take them out. And going around the neighborhood, cars are muffled, but I can still hear them passing by. Comfort is not the greatest. I can wear them with the E Pro horn tip for about 30 minutes, and then I have to take about a 3 to 5 minute break, and I can put them back in and do the wiggling and getting them situated and resuming the music. With the stock tips, any of them, it was probably 15 minutes at the most before I had to take them out, and they were very uncomfortable. Cable. So the cable connects with a 2-pin, does not have ear hooks. It is a nicely built cable though, fabric. You get a nice big cinch here that stays in place. And then it's braided. Goes into a clunky connection that you can get either in 2.5, 4.4, or 3.5. This is the 2.5 variant. The cable is nicely built. I do wish that I had ear hooks. I did explore other cables, and the cable that I enjoyed the Penon Fan 2 with was the Effect Audio Cadmus. Now I found that the Cadmus was more comfortable and had ear hooks and just helped to hold the Fan 2 in my ears a little bit better. Also, I found that the Cadmus had an extra bonus, which was it added in just a little bit extra to the sound, got a little bit more sparkle and energy, and it was just a little bit more spacious in its sound. So the Penon Fan 2 is fairly easy to drive, being 13 ohms and 112 decibels of sensitivity. I find that all my dongles, DAPs, and desktop were able to drive the Fan 2 with no issues. A couple things to note. The Fan 2 is kind of sensitive to higher output impedance devices, and it will alter the sound signature and also cause it to hiss. Also, the Fan 2 is a little bit sensitive to the type of source presentation. If it's a warmer sounding source, the Fan 2 will sound bloated and extra thick and robust in the bottom end. So I found that the Fan 2 sounded better on a more neutral, analytical leaning source. How does the Penon Fan 2 sound? So the bass of the Penon Fan 2 is mid bass, upper bass focused. Sub bass has a little bit of extension. You're going to get a little bit of rumble and grumble. But the most prominent part of the bass of the Fan 2 is the mid bass and upper bass. You're going to get some punch, you're going to get some slam, you're going to get some kick. And overall, it's a very engaging bass. But it's too much. The bass is very thick and robust. It has this fullness to it, and it has a lot of energy that's just like there's a lot of quantity in the mid bass and upper bass. It does bleed into the mids. Overall, the bass has good tonality and it sounds nice, and it's a fun and engaging bass. It's just too much, and there's just the fullness to it, and there's too much note weight and density, and things are just a little overly thick. Especially in the upper bass regions, there's just this kind of dominant upper bass at times, and on some tracks it can be overpowering and can sound bloated. It can also go into one note mode on very heavy hitting bass tracks. Detail retrieval and resolution is decent in the bass, and it does a good job of staying controlled for the most part, even though it is very thick and very robust. And I would say the Penon Fan 2 has a big booty bass. It has a lot of mid bass and upper bass presence, even though it doesn't have the sub bass. So I wouldn't say it's a bass head IEM, but it definitely has some bass to it. But it's well controlled for the most part, other than those busier tracks and more bass heavy tracks, or sources that are very bass prominent, and things kind of get out of control with the Fan 2. Going into the mids garner a lot of warmth from the bass, especially in the lower mids region. Upper mids are slightly elevated, but everything sounds pretty even in the mids, and they have a nice fullness to them and a nice lushness to them. The mids have good tonality, and overall details and resolution is nice. But again, it's a little too full, a little bit too thick, and a little bit too lush, and it has a romanticism to it. The treble. The treble extends slightly. There's a roll off in the upper treble regions, and you can at times miss some sparkle in energy and a little bit of air and space. But it is a non fatiguing treble, and it has good tone and nice details and resolution. So overall, the bass, the mids, and the treble of the Fan 2 are very romantic. They are a pleasurable listen. They have a fullness to them and a note weight that is very dense and thick. And it has this just kind of, let's chill, let's relax, and let's be warm and cozy and romantic in our listening. But also at times it can sound a little bit boring and just too chill, a little too comfortable. The soundstage of the Penon Fan 2 is rather cozy, and it is intimate. It's not a very wide stage, and it doesn't have a whole lot of air and space, but it has good depth to it and it layers nicely. Imaging is good. Things track across the stage within the smaller size that it has, and at times it can sound a little bit stuffy on more complex tracks or heavy hitting bass tracks. It'll become a little bit congested, and it doesn't have quite the space in between instruments and vocalists, and things can kind of crowd in on each other. At times, the soundstage can sound like you're listening to speakers in an over dampened room. It's just kind of a little bit too full, a little too thick, and a little bit too close, and it doesn't really separate and isolate out. Tone and timbre. The tone and timbre of the Penon Fan 2 is good. There's nice note weight and density, even though it is a little bit thick and robust and has a little bootyliciousness to it. But it still sounds natural. It's just a little too rich. It's a little too much. And if it lacks a little bit of air and space to kind of give it its naturalism. And then the details and resolution. The details of the Penon Fan 2 is very good. I'm very impressed with all the information that you get and how it presents it. It resolves it very well. There's no issues with glariness, glassiness, or anything of the sort. In fact, it kind of rounds things off a little bit, and you do lack a little bit of that bite, that edge, and that crispiness at times. How does the Penon Fan 2 compare to a couple other IEMs? So you have the Tanchjim Kara. Now the Tanchjim Kara's full review will be coming soon to the channel. But the Tanchjim Kara has a more open sound stage, and it has better space and better isolation of instruments and vocalists, and it does a better job of details and resolution. Tone and timbre is more accurate and true as well. And then it has a better controlled bass, and it's not as thick and robust in the mid bass and upper bass regions. The upper mids and treble are a little bit more forward and have more bite and edge to them, and there's more sparkle and energy, and it just sounds more accurate and true. And then you have the JQ4U Pro. Now the JQ4U Pro has better tone and timbre, sounds more natural and accurate, and also has a better soundstage. It's more spaced, does a better job with layering, and is more controlled, does not get as muddled and confused as the Penon Fan 2 does on bassier, heavier, more complex type of tracks. Also, the bass is more even in its sub-bass presentation. You get a little bit more rumble and grumble, and the mid-bass and upper bass are more controlled. Mids have a more natural, airy presentation to them, and then the treble is more extended, and you get more sparkle and energy. And throughout the entire presentation, the JQ4U Pro is more controlled. So the Penon Fan 2. It's a very interesting listen. So the Penon Fan 2 has a very romantic, lush, warm sound signature. It's very laid back, chill, and at times can be like bored. I'm sitting here on the couch cuddling, but I'm not really paying attention to what's going on television, and nobody's talking, and it's just kind of I want to do something, and it's just like you're just kind of like I don't know what to do, and you're just kind of bored, but yet comfortable at the same time. That's the way the Penon Fan 2 is. And the note weight and the density issue is kind of like a chocolate cake in which there's just a little too much rich chocolate in it. And it tastes really good, but it's just a little bit too rich and a little bit too dense, and you just get a little too much. And you're just like, if it had just slightly less or a little bit more of something else to kind of add in. That's the way the Penon Fan 2 is. It's just good, but it's not great, and it's not anything exceptional at anything it does, but yet it's also not bad. It's just an IEM that's different and pleasurable, but not comfortable. However you want to phrase it, that's the Penon Fan 2. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on screen, subscription links, notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. And then don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video. And check out the links down below. There's all kinds of information down there regarding how you contact the channel, follow the channel, support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, I want to thank my supporters through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you for all that you provide to the channel. It's much appreciated. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out the links down below. There's various ways that you can do that through one-time gifts or through monthly subscriptions where you can get access to my private Discord servers and other benefits. And lastly, don't forget to check out all the links down below. There's all kinds of other information like gear rankings and music recommendations and all kinds of other things. So check out the links down below. And don't forget to enjoy the music, and honesty is the best policy.